Okay, you're good to go, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Welcome everybody to the special council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry this August 16th. I'm going to call the meeting to order by resolution, moved by Martin Lang, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be resolved that the August 16th, 2021 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry be opened at 5:30 p.m. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. I'll now ask you all to stand for the singing or the playing of our national anthem. Thank you very much. So I'll now move on to the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments? Seeing none, moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Sam Actonel. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as circulated. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, move on to item number 5, approval of the minutes. Moved by Sam Actonel, second by Martin Lang. Nope.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, there's no minutes on the agenda this evening for approval. We'll just moving into staff reports.
Okay, thank you. I just realized that. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Okay, moving on to item number 6, presentations and delegations. Under new business, staff report 7A. So I'll hand that over to you, Mr. Mills, to get us started.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Good evening, Council, members of the general public and staff. Staff report tonight on waste management, recycling, collection services. Specific to the draft RFP that we're going to ask for your input on. Before I start tonight, I want to acknowledge all of the work that's gone into the staff report, the PowerPoint, and all of the homework you had to do ahead of time. I know it's quite a package. So our Director of Waste Management, Roads and Waste Management, Mr. LeBlanc. We have also a Jennifer Brown-Hahn from WSP on board tonight to answer any questions related to our landfill monitoring, and she's a team leader with environmental services. And there was a lot of research, past research that went into the report tonight by our Deputy Clerk, Crystal LeBrun, and Executive Assistant, Michelle O'Shaughnessy. So a real team effort. We're going to bring up the PowerPoint now and work through it.
Bear with me here while I get it up, sorry.
I think the internet is slow in Lancaster tonight.
Could be.
Has to reach out to Alberta, so.
I'll share my screen, Crystal. I can get up. Okay, there it is.
You see it?
Yeah. So starting off with the slide 1 in terms of our mission, and we're looking at with waste management and recycling to be even more efficient in our delivery of a very important municipal service. You've seen the cost, council, in your package, that it's not small. So we have to be mindful when we get out an RFP, and I'm sure there'll be lots of feedback. We're a population of just under 14,000, and of note, having almost 6,000 curbside stops, and that's a significant number and a big job for our contractors. We have 2 landfills that are presently open, Beaverbrook and North Lancaster, and one that was closed in the past in Somerstown. So really, the next piece to consider is what's going on in waste management. You've seen in your package, we have limited disposal capacity, which I'll talk to in a minute. It's expensive, revenue and expenses, and Treasurer Lachlan McDonald is also online tonight, so I want to thank him for all of the numbers that he brought to the table tonight. The reason we're bringing all the information to you, we have a number of expiring contracts related to waste, recycling, and the MRF. We've had policy changes with recycling that are upcoming, and there are always ongoing environmental pressures. I mentioned the limited capacity. So the Somerstown landfill was closed a long time ago, but we still have to monitor it. North Lancaster has an estimated 4 years of capacity, and Beaverbrook's 13. And you think about how fast time goes, and what you were doing 4 years ago or 13 years ago is going to come up upon us just like that. The average landfill length of service in Ontario is 10 years. So it's a big issue across the province. In terms of revenues and expenses, disposal costs are increasing, diversion costs are increasing, and contracts such as collection and consulting will increase too because of labor and insurance requirements. Recycling market, as you know, in the past year has gone up significantly with the rapid decline in supply of recyclable material to the market and a drop in demand and purchase price. We're looking at innovative practices, certainly to try to get more grants and all levels of service within the municipality. But often municipalities are faced with having to fund programs on our own. Current services, what we're providing: waste collection. We do that weekly with no bag limit. Recycling collection is bi-weekly with a single stream. And the last 3 items there, it's for 1 week. Sorry, last 2 of the leaf and yard waste and large item collection are for 1 week in the fall and spring, but it's once per household. And hazardous waste we host at Smithfield Park 1 day in the fall. So what we require from you tonight is some feedback of what we're going to put into the RFP. We need to talk about bag limits, bag tags, single stream versus double stream recycling, and weekly versus bi-weekly recycling. So our timelines are all there, that basically between now and the end of the year, all of our contracts are going to expire. It would be great, I think, if it's possible for the township to harmonize the contract dates. That would be the goal for procurement for garbage collection, recycling, and the material recovery facility. Just to keep in mind when we get to a few more slides that we're recommending that the RFP be for a longer period of time, and I'll get to that. The cost is there for waste management, and January to June, and I've already mentioned what the cost includes. There's the cost for recycling. You see the significant jump from 2019 to 2020. And of note, we presently do recycling bi-weekly. Bag limits, I know it's come to council many times, and administration is strongly recommended that we consider bag limits. It increases waste diversion, and you already saw what the life of our landfills are. Alternative waste diversion options. Recently doing food cyclers, we'd like to expand that, but there are others certainly to consider. Increase awareness of the volume and cost of waste, encouraging residents to really get involved. There was a recent report a number of years ago, almost 10 years ago, about a 2-bag limit and diverting blue box recyclables from the landfill. The present life expectancy of our landfills is definitely a problem. What we've highlighted there are closure dates and remaining capacity. I'm not going to get into all that, but you'll see it's all over the map in SDNG. There's a recent study that's being conducted countywide on waste management, which I'm sure council would want to consider as well. But it varies anywhere from 36 years to 2 years, and it's all over the map. This jumps off the page at you with the number of municipalities, certainly in SDNG, that have a 2-bag limit. Options for bag limit implementation that is before you now. Consideration from administration. A 4-bag limit as of December, and then the following December 3, and the following July 2-bag limit. So it's a graduated approach. We also need to consider within the bag limits that we're a rural municipality, commercial, agricultural, and industrial. Certainly highlighted that we are rural, so we'd have to consider the number of containers and bundles per address. Are we going to have bag tags for extra bags and containers, or just go on the honor system? There are situations with families or individuals with special needs where they might generate more garbage. And then penalizing new residents that come in if they're left with a mess when they move in, which is not uncommon. Another consideration in the RFP is single stream versus double stream recycling. We currently use single stream and go to Cornwall, and it's all in one container, and it's bi-weekly, whereas a double stream, if it was considered, we might want to consider as a municipality weekly recycling, increasing the homeowner storage capacity, diverse recycling from the landfill. And we would have to go to a blue box and a green box. So there's an additional cost. That's an estimate there, approximately 40,000 based on the number of households. But some people may want to buy extras. We often see 2, 3, 4 bins and bags out for residents. Landfill and curbside material ban option there. So specific materials are designated as not being allowed to be set out for garbage collection. Blue box recyclables will be prohibited from disposal in the same way that hazardous or electronic waste is not permitted in the garbage. This would require clear bags and enforcement by the contractor in the township, and it's not recommended that, I mean, one bylaw enforcement officer Monday to Friday. I think it's in general being proactive rather than reactive, and educating our constituents is what we're recommending is the way to go. The enactment of disposal bans has been shown to increase participation in the recycling program, but it's the enforcement piece. So there's an app, for example, that's been discussed at the Environment Committee, led by Councillor Jaworski, a recycling coach app. It reinforces the recycling program, and it's shown to be extremely effective. So for the RFP, there are a number of things in that I presented to you on behalf of staff. for feedback and items to consider. One is implementing a bag limit. 2 is weekly recycling pickup or not. These are recommendations for you to consider, and whether it's a single or double stream. Certainly the success of the food cycler pilot is to be determined, but they flew off the shelves, so to speak, with a major waiting list. So other waste diversion measures would certainly be something we should consider. Environmentally sustainable solutions, there are others. And I mentioned this is the 4th time now about preserving our precious landfill space. So you have a lot of information in your package to consider that I'm sure took a while to review. That's the end of my presentation, and I'll be glad to stay on, but most of the questions would go to staff, whether it's finance or landfill or bag limits to Mr. LeBlanc or otherwise. So thank you very much, Council.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim. And I do want to thank staff for all their time and effort on this report. It's very detailed. There's a lot to chew on. So I'm going to open it up to the floor, and we'll start with discussion. Does anybody want to start first? Oh, Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you. Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. I might be accused of beating a dead horse on this one, but I do want to repeat that we really appreciate staff bringing this to us so early in the process so that we have time to look at different options on how we can do this better. But I guess I just want to mention that, the waste recycling strategy was done in 2012. And, we haven't, the township, we haven't done a lot on that document in those, almost 10 years. And, in 2012, we had 20 years of capacity left in North Lancaster, and now we have 4. And in 2012, we had 30 years at Beaverbrook, and now we have just 13. So we're filling up faster than, we had anticipated. And I know, so those of us on the Environment Committee who receive these reports on a regular basis, I know that, it's been anxiety producing to see that happening. And, we are very focused on diversion on that committee. So I know that we are very happy as a group to see that this is being looked at tonight. So I just wanted to make that general comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments from other members? Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you. Yes, I appreciate the report. I think we're all kind of accepting the fact that we're going to have to do something to slow this down. Nobody's really wanting to have to say, but I think we're going to have to address this bag limit. I appreciate staff with their report about phasing it in. Don't agree with the timelines myself. I would go to 4 bags this fall. Next June or July, I'd be at 3, and by the end of next year, I'd be at 2. I think we're 2 or 3 years out is too long. I mean, we're almost doing nothing. I think we have right now, I know it said no bag limit. I think we have an 8 bag limit. I've heard of people having a tag in their thing saying where they were over the 8 bag limit. 8 bags is ridiculous. It's way too high. I can see it if you're, working, like a dairy farm or something like this. But as from what I understand, the bag limits are, at this point anyway, are not affecting farms. They're exempt. So, I mean, for an average residence, I don't think we use 2 bags every week. It wouldn't be any effect to us at all, And even we have a farm, but we don't have a dairy farm, but we don't even use 2 bags a week with the farm part of our garbage in there. So I don't see it as being a detriment to too many people. I know there's people that are concerned that if we put a bag limit in, people are going to start throwing garbage in the ditch again, and we're going to find it down the peanut line, and we're going to find it at the end of the dead end roads. And I mean, I don't think that's a reason not to put it in. Hopefully in this day and age, people are a little more sensible in that. If they're not, then I think we need to try to, go after them. And if it comes to it, the township will pick it up and we'll clean it up and try to keep the place looking nice. So As far as the RFP, or maybe you want to talk about that a little later, want to just focus on this bag limit thing for a bit?
Yeah,
See where-
yeah, if you wouldn't mind, Councillor Lang, just we'll do the bag limit, kind of everybody have their thoughts, and then we can delve into the RFP after, if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I guess I'm on the fence on it. I understand the financials of it. It makes sense to me, and at the same time, I still myself as I guess in general don't like necessarily like a bag limit. And I think if we are going to put a bag limit in, we have to do something. Kind of if we're taking with one hand, we better be giving with the other. Whether it's costing out weekly recycling. And I personally would rather see us, I'll be honest, if we're going to spend $40,000 on little brown bins, I'd rather us throw all of them or all the ones we have away and just go to a better type of bin, I guess, if we're going to be giving them out, or subsidize the purchase of the taller bins with wheels. And I personally could never recycle until I had an actual half decent bin. Not everybody's got a nice big garage for them to put their bins in. Half of my stuff I ended up just picking up out of the ditch, and I never once recycled after that. Pick it out of the snow 4 days in a row, and you won't be too happy. I always found the bins that we use, and they're standard. It's not against the township. It's standard pretty well across the province. These little blue boxes just don't cut it. I find in rural areas, I find they either get thrown around by a snowplow or a truck blows the stuff out of it. Containers, whenever they're empty, tend to be pretty light as plastic goes. And we've already been told from Cornwall that they don't want plastic bags. And if we don't like the plastic bags, then we've got to come up with a better solution. I think these boxes, I'd also like to say, if we are going to go to a 2-bag limit, I think we should be accepting a certain style of garbage bin as well. Maybe you could probably stuff 3 into it, but we're not going to be counting the bags coming out of that big brown box whenever somebody's got it at the end of the lane. I'm not saying we have our people tipping over dumpsters, but these standard ones you can buy at Canadian Tire or wherever, they should be counting if as far as a bag. I guess I have a bunch of things jotted down here, but I guess we can stick to the bag limit for now. The only other thing that concerns me is, I live down towards Curry Hill, and you drive along the Highway 2 in the morning on garbage day, and everybody and their dog are out bringing the garbage to the end of the lane on these private roads, and we're picking up, are we going to be leaving garbage there because we're over our bag limit on those private roads, or what's our strategy and plan for that? That's, I guess, if I can get an answer for that one, that would be my major question.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, Councillor McDonnell. I certainly am in favor of a 2-bag limit. I've been, I said this over a year ago when the Environment Committee first made their recommendation. I feel with education and the phased in time, we can get to it. And I do feel like people will, the majority of our residents are already at 2 bags or less. And Councillor Jaworski, I want to thank you for your little survey that you did the other day. There was a lot of insight from residents, and it's nice to see and read that there are households of 5 or more that are maintaining one or less bags per week. So I think with education and giving a phased-in approach, I think we can get there. I've mentioned it before. I'd like to also see us put in a plan for one of those recycling depots. And I think that all ties in with it. Like, I feel like the bag limits is just the start of this conversation. I think we need to make that decision and say, okay, we're going to go to a 2-bag limit. And I like Councillor Lang's comments that, we're going to do it sooner than later. But I also take Councillor McDonnell, your comments that we can't just go to a 2-bag limit and say that's it. I feel like we need to work with our residents to say, okay, we're going to go to a 2-bag limit, but we're going to give you these other options to help. And at the end of the day, it's not about, at the end of the day, it all boils down to money, because whether you're putting 3 bags to the road or you're putting 2, it's as long as we can stretch out those landfills. That's the whole point of this whole process. So that being said, I'd like to kind of move the conversation. We've kind of all said our piece towards staff. So I will start again with you, Councillor Jaworski, in regards to the recycling portion of the RFP, and I'm pretty sure you have a few comments.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Warden. And I mean, they do really go hand in hand, right? Like the bag limits go with recycling. I mean, you know, we do, like when the waste composition studies today, there is a lot of recycling that's going out into the garbage. And so if we want people to recycle, we need to make it easier. And we also need to, there has to be a little bit of that motivation too. So the bag limit is the motivation, but then making it easier by you know, increasing recycling and the opportunities for recycling. Bar none, hands down, going to weekly recycling is the request that I get when it comes to waste and recycling collection, 100%. So definitely, I would like to see that as part of this RFP. I mean, we have to be responsible. We have to understand what does that mean in terms of additional cost. But 100%, I think we need to have that as being one of the options of having weekly recycling. Now, when it comes to that, I know there's single stream and there's dual stream. So I would like to have an understanding of how much are we going to save if our residents are doing a bit of sorting initially. I know in my case, containers go outside in a big bin, like Councillor McDonnell is describing, because they can be outside and they don't blow away in my big bin. But the paper I keep inside because I don't want it getting wet. So I'm sort of naturally sorting. But I don't know, you know, we don't want to make it harder. But I know in my case, I don't want to have to wait 1 week for containers and then the next week for paper. I'd like it to all go weekly. But again, it comes down to cost. So those are options that I would like to have clarity on. Because I think, you know, I think people want weekly, but I think people are willing to do some sorting if they realize that there's a big benefit to it, you know, at the end of the line financially. So that's those are the main points that I'd like to make in terms of recycling.
Thank you. I think those are very fair points too, Councillor Jaworski. I think that it does, at the end of the day, it does boil down to money. Councillor Lang, can I go to you now?
You certainly can. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm 100% in favor of going to weekly recycling. It's the biggest pain around this place is we're trying to figure out which week our recycling is. We can't remember if we did it last week, didn't do it last week. The village is 1 week, which is only a kilometer down the road, and we're the opposite week. It would be so nice to just be able to put it out every week with, you know, everything goes out at once. I don't know what it's going to cost. I'm just a little worried that is it going to be another $500,000 on top of our bill now? I mean, there'll be less tons going in on the alternate week, but the collection costs are going to be high. So I'm definitely in favor of let's find out if we can afford it. The other thing is if we don't do something, what's it going to cost? You know, our landfills are going to be gone here shortly. And, you know, whether we make the 13 years, I suspect once North Lancaster fills, then Beaverbrook's going to start filling up a lot faster. I don't think we got anywhere near 13 years if we keep on the way we're going. And then what's the cost going to be? If we've got, you know, landfills are extremely expensive to try to get up and running. Most municipalities aren't even bothering to do it anymore. So do we send it to, you know, La Flèche or somebody? And what is that? So I think this, you know, hopefully residents aren't looking at this as we're penalizing them and saying they can only put out 2 bags. We're actually trying to get ahead of this to save some money in the long run. And I think that's kind of the way we need to spin this, that, you know, if we don't do something, it's going to cost everybody a lot more at some point here. So let's see what we can do about the recycling. It would be great if we could collect every week. And I think we have no choice but to kind of give people that little push. And if there's any other incentives we can put out there to encourage them to recycle more and to get the garbage going to the landfills down, I think that's great.
Yeah, no, that's very good comments. And I think too, I think like I've seen in the city of Cornwall, they do weekly recycling and they do have a bag limit now, and they have 1 truck. So there's also that, and that factor as well, is if we can design, if this RFP comes back where, you know, if it's, we may have to sign a longer contract to get, you know, a decent return on the investment for a contractor having to buy certain types of trucks, but we would be eliminating diesel motors running on the roads as well. And the truck, you know, you're not going to have 2 trucks coming to your door. even though recycling's every second week, it's one truck every week and that's it, no extra trucks. So, Councillor McDonough?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I'm in favor of weekly recycling, like Councillor Lang and like Councillor Jaworski said. Obviously, depending on the price, if it's going to be another $750,000, we might have to sit down and rethink about it. But as of right now, I guess it's kind of hard to estimate what our increase would be. I guess because we wouldn't know how many people or how much more recycling we'd be taking in. It's kind of an odd calculation or formula to look at. I don't think you're going to pick up that much more recycling. I think it's just going to be the frequency that'll be increasing, but I could be proven wrong because we're talking on a per tonnage basis, right? It's kind of one of those, it's kind of you won't know till you try unless the pickup costs are extravagant. But I guess that's part of it. I personally think if we can't go to a weekly recycling, I don't want to see a bag limit personally. That's kind of where my thought is. If we are going to put a bag limit in, we better be doing something better on the other side. I guess that's just where I stand.
Thank you. Well, I mean, that is the goal, I think, of what our council seems to want. But every other municipality in STNG has had bi-weekly recycling and a 2-bag limit for years. So I think if push come to shove, I think we could get there, albeit it doesn't seem to be what we want as a council. So, Mr. Mills, basically, I'm hoping to achieve out of this RFP is that I'd like to see like proposals from the waste companies, like give us ideas. Like we're just 4 individuals and staff members. We're not the experts. And points need to be awarded that if they have something that we didn't see, I would like to make sure that that is included in the RFP because, and one of the factors too, from Councillor Lang's point in regards to North Lancaster, like, is it 4 years how we're using the dump currently? Because we only use North Lancaster for 3 months of the year, 4 months of the year. So I don't know, like that could be, so.
So through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
So what's the difference between 4 years and 7 years or 4 years and 8 years? It's still a problem.
Oh, I realize that, but it could be in our face even sooner.
Right. Could be.
Yeah.
So just to your comments, to the comments from all the council, that when we put the RFP out, in order for the contractors to bid properly, they're going to have to know what the bag limits are. That's one. And two, whether it's, and it sounds like everyone's in favor of weekly recycling, single stream, but we can come back with a double stream cost.
Yes.
But to your point too about the length of contract, so we would be recommending the average life of a garbage truck is about, or waste management truck is about 7 years, from what we understand. So that would be the length of the contract. And I think you're going to then get a much more competitive bid. If we go 2 or 3 years, we're simply, I don't think we're going to get contractors investing in a lot of new, even if they were to refurbish their trucks or new trucks on the road, that would be a large risk. So the cost, there's a cost to the trucks, and from what I understand, trucks are usually split 60-40 when you have a bag limit. So that 60, if it's one truck, would be 60% garbage and 40% recycling. And it sounds pretty efficient when it's going down the road and it's weekly with a 2-bag limit, recycling every week and one-stop shopping and otherwise. But let's see what's out there. We'll put a lot of options out on the RFP, but I think we have to be clear that it's going to come back from the contractors that it's going to be based on a bag limit, and the price is going to be based on, we'll ask for both single and double stream and also weekly and bi-weekly, and then you'll get the comparisons on the price.
Yes, that's very good. Thank you. So I believe there's consensus at the table at this moment that we want to get to a 2-bag limit by the end of 2022. Can I put a show of hands? I'm in favor of that. Are you, Councillor Lang and Councillor Jaworski? So there is consensus that we do want to get to a 2-bag limit within that period. So we're going to go right to a 4-bag limit this January 1st. And then June, we're going to go to a 3-bag limit. And then by June or December of 2022, 2-bag limit. And so we have consensus around the table, and I certainly appreciate that from my colleagues, because I think this is a step in the right move for our municipality. Councillor Lang.
Having said that, I think we need to do a little, like, there's going to be cases, and staff has brought some of those forward, but there's going to be cases. So then we need to decide what happens if we're over that. Is it so much a bag? If you're going to have tags that people can buy, and then if they have to go over, they put a tag on. I mean, my daughter lives in Kempville. They have 0-bag limit. She pays $2.75 for every bag that they put out, and they don't get any free ones. It just starts right off $2.75 every bag. You buy tags, and when you run out, you go to the township and you buy some more tags, and they pay for the whole shot. But there could be times when people need to put out a little more, or a special circumstance. So we have to have some way of addressing that. So I don't know if that's stuff that staff gets back to us on, or if we,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, very, very good point, Councillor Lang. Tim, did you want to?
I was going to say through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I mean, we know this is mission critical. Even though it's August, it's all of a sudden it's going to be. No, we've got to issue the RFP ASAP. But I think we'd like direction tonight on, are we going to go with bag tags, or are we going to go on the honor system? It sounds like bag tags are all around us, that it's an option, but if we're going to do that, we got to get a move on, because it'll take time to get them made up where we're going to distribute them. Or we're going to just distribute them at the township office. We're a pretty big municipality geographically, so do we want to, a couple of spots where people can purchase them or not?
Okay, Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor Warden. I mean, I'd like to try and make it as uncomplicated as possible. I mean, I think some municipalities who have, so many you can do quote unquote for free, they give out so many bag tags in their waste collection calendar. So everyone gets like 10 extra tags, so that, like for Christmas and for, I have residents who contacted me and say that sometimes they don't put out bags because it's too icy. So they, they don't want to be penalized for trying to be safe. So like, they could use those tags for that, that consideration. And also that would be something that we could have for folks who need medical exemptions. Or I'd also like to bring up the topic of big families. Pretty much everyone I talked to said they can get under 2 bags, but the folks who have families of 9, it seems it's much more challenging for them. So they might also need to be in an exemption category, and I don't want to leave them out. But I think for those exemption folks, that would be an easy way of giving that, they could have a surplus number of tags. So, but I'd like to keep it as simple as possible, that this does not become a large burden.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. The tag system, I kind of thought more along the lines of voluntary, and then selling extra tags, and then having a metrics where staff could come to council and say, okay, so this is what we found from other municipalities, folks with certain needs, special care. Like, I don't want to put a 2-bag limit and say, no, that's it. We need to be sympathetic to that. But I also feel like if somebody wants to pay extra to dispose of more, they have that option, but it has to be paid for by themselves. So, Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, how do we plan to go about with some of these special exemptions? Has staff got any, I guess, plan, like as far as farms, and say somebody like, is it going to be, we're going to give anybody with, I don't know, for example, somebody on home dialysis is probably producing 3 bags themselves a week. How are we going to go about that? Are we just going to issue them free bag tags and they're going to have to tag the bags anyways? Or can we tag the address that this is, same with like farms? Are we just going to be assuming that every every farm's getting an exemption?
So
Okay, thank you.
through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. All of this information that came together in a short amount of time. So I'm pretty confident we can go back out. We'll study a little more on other municipalities, and like Councillor Jaworski said, it's not that complicated in a sense that the exemptions that we need to consider are probably happening in a lot of other municipalities. We just need to do a little more research on that, and we'll bring that together in a short amount of time. But the main thing I think is that we have the bag limit, and that we see if within the right price range that we can get to weekly recycling. The exemptions are not what's going to put us into a problem with the landfill that we're faced with now. I mean, that's, we have to have equity. Not everybody's going to be equal. We have to have equity. So we'll make sure staff does it properly and we have it equitable for everybody.
Yes, thank you. And also, the contractors may have all that already factored into all their stuff. So they may come back to us and say, yeah, this is the way it's done. And hopefully that information could happen. I'm wondering if the Environment Committee wanted to do some research and report back to staff, or Mr. Mills, do you feel staff can handle that on their own?
For you, I mean, the staff can handle it, but we'd certainly take input for sure if there's other information out there.
Okay.
But yeah,
So
I don't know, maybe defer to the chair here.
Okay, so without putting you on the spot, Councillor Jaworski, would your committee be interested in doing some research and reporting back to staff and council in regards to having that metrics where, we're going to go to a 2-bag limit, but here's the exemptions and here's the process. Would your committee be interested in doing something along those lines?
I mean, I would assume so. I would assume the fact with this coming down the horizon, they would like to provide a lot of input on those kinds of things. And if if council would permit, I think they would have some ideas to sort of to what you were mentioning earlier on, Deputy Mayor Warner. What are the other things around this that we can do to help the program forward to make sure that it's a success, in terms of having, depots where people can bring things when they, when is that off time, or, they miss the recycling, pick up, that sort of thing. I'm sure they would they want to contribute to the success of this. So I'm sure they'd be very happy to comment on it.
I think that'd be great. The more information and input that council has, I feel, and with this RFP, I think we'll be able to make a very educated decision that will help us moving forward. That being said, I think it was a very good discussion. Are there any other points that any of you would like to make? Councillor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you. As far as the RFP goes, there's things in there that I have questions about, but I don't know that it's our job to necessarily be, to nitpick and go through that thing. I would recommend to staff, I guess, that they talk to some of the contractors that do this sort of thing. And the reason I'm saying that is I'm wondering if we can, depending on how that document is worded, whether we can get a better price. If there's things that don't matter too much to South Glengarry and they're either removed or reworded in that document, that the people bidding on this might be able to say, oh, we can give a better price. And I'll just throw an example out there. There's something in that document that says that their trucks have to be newer than 5 years old when this starts, and they can't be over 7 years old at any point. I mean, and here at the township, we have trucks that are many years older than that, I will say, just, is it our job? And I mean, 2 paragraphs later, we say that we have the ability that our enforcement person can decide if the truck is not in good enough shape. So we have that worded a couple of paragraphs later that we can, if they have a truck on the road that, really isn't up to standards, we can have them, that can be changed. So something like that where, the company says, okay, I don't have to go out and buy all new trucks here. I have, trucks that are maybe 3 years old that'll do for this contract. And this is just an example. I just
I
think we should talk to them and make sure that, is there anything in there that is limiting them and is making them say, okay, we've got to put our price up here because they're asking this of us, which we normally wouldn't do. So I just want to make sure that we kind of have that discussion.
I'll go to Tim, Mr. Mills, and then to you, Councillor McDonnell.
So through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, there's always ways to word it with preferred as to needs to be. But I think we also need what Councillor Lang referred to before we started it. Administration will work within what we got, the direction you've given us, but also the contractors are used to this too. You know, they're not just bidding on South Glengarry. They bid on lots, and they know the market and they know what's out there. So I'd imagine there'll be some innovation come back too.
That's perfect. That's what we want to achieve. Councillor McDonnell, then Councillor Jaworski for the final comments.
Through Deputy Mayor, through you, Deputy Mayor, I agree with Councillor Lang. When I read that, I was a little shocked to see it. I kind of thought, well, along the same lines as Councillor Lang, that maybe, well, they've got 3 trucks that are at 7 years old now, and they'll throw them on our route or something. I think if they can pass a safety, that's their job to make sure they're on the road. It's not ours. They lose the money if it's the other way. So I don't know. I don't think we should be dictating what trucks or how old the trucks are, but just one last comment was, and I didn't say it earlier, but I do not agree with the 2-bag limit. I would prefer a 3, but it doesn't look like that really matters right now. So
I guess I should have worded it as we have a majority of council members who are in favor. My apologies, Councillor McDonnell.
Yep.
Yeah, Councillor Jaworski.
No, thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor Warden. So so I work in equipment maintenance. So even if the average is 7, trying to tie people to that, I think, is terrible, because the leaders in the equipment maintenance probably have equipment that's quite a bit older on the road and doing quite fine. So I would hate to force people into a lower, value of their, like, getting better value out of or worse value out of their equipment. But that being said, just to echo what Councillor Lang said, yes, these contractors are used to putting out bids, but I would say at a lot of times they're sort of given something very much inside a very specific box. And I'm hoping that we are going to break open that box so that they can give us something that is more, perhaps something more creative, that they'll say, well, we could do this, but if we had a transfer station, well, that would change everything. Because, I'd like to have 1 truck going down the road, but I have to remember that, recycling goes to Cornwall and garbage is going to Martintown. So, those are still very far away. So maybe the vision of having this 1 truck is not necessarily the ideal one. So I just want them to be encourage them to be as creative as possible, because frankly, like the what we see around us, I don't think are particularly creative solutions. So I hope we can help them, and to, like what Councillor McNeil was mentioning about box size or container size, like perhaps that is something that if we had a standardized container size, it would change things. So I think those are things that are important to consider.
Okay, great. Good discussion, guys. I really thank you all, and I can't thank staff enough for their effort on this file. And I think that we, as a council, will have more information at our hands in a couple months. So thank you for that. So I will read the resolution at hand. Moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 117-2021 be received, and that administration revised draft RFP 15-2021 pursuant to the feedback provided by council, and furthermore that administration be directed to finalize and issue RFP 15-2021 for waste management and recycling collection services. All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you very much for that. Moving on to other business, there is none. 7B, 7C, committee reports. There are none. 7D, information only, there is none. Item 8, closed session. So we will be at that portion of the meeting. Moved by Martin Lang, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that council convene to close session at 6:19 p.m. to discuss the following items under section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001. 2, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being discussed is B, personal information about an identifiable individual, staffing matter, D, labor relations or employee negotiations, collective bargaining, and E, litigation or potential litigation official plan appeal. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much for the members of the public attending the meeting, and we'll see you on the other side.